Okay, welcome to the Leontessa Effect, a space where courage meets wisdom and evolution is the only constant. This is for people who refuse to play small, who lead with strength, speak with purpose, and embrace the fire within. Here we dive deep into health, self-discovery, and the unseen forces that shape us. It's time to unlock your power, trust your intuition, and step fully into who you are meant to be. All right, guys, today we are going to be talking about how one size does not fit all. And specifically, we're going to be talking about this in the health and fitness realm, nutrition, exercise. Um, and we want to talk about this because, especially in today's day and age with social media and us having direct access to seeing millions of other people, it can kind of be one, confusing on what route to take for your own journey. And two, it can kind of be a little bit deceptive because you might see somebody who looks the way you want to look or has the life that you want to live. And then you believe, whatever they're doing, you should do to get to that same point. So we're going to kind of dive into what me and Aisha have learned in our own lives, what we've learned through our clients' lives, and yeah, just dissect the topic.
Yeah, I'm really excited to dive into this with you as well. Just having another trainer to
Mm.
bounce ideas off of because, each of us brings something to the table that the other person doesn't have, which in an inverse way is exactly what we're talking about, really. Even though I'm really excited because even though we're really similar, we probably go about doing things a different way and how we got there. And what I like to point out with this is and I brought it up a couple of times, but I always go back to pattern recognition and,
Yeah.
being familiar with yourself. But, you know, we'll relate to it with input and output. And so I think we always see the output, so the video or the aesthetics of what somebody looks like, but we never talk about or dive into what the input looks like because that's where we get stuck, and that's where I think most people need a little bit of help because like you said, it can be very it is very overwhelming to get online, look at all these programs, try and get something that like fits who you are. So we'll kind of talk about why that does and doesn't work. um but I'm really interested to hear what you have to say on like the food side of it and like the nutrition side of it. If you wanted to jump off there or just like the fitness part of it, I don't care either way.
Yeah, I was thinking, what we had talked about that I know we're pretty different in is the nutrition aspect
Yeah.
of things. And to kind of give a backstory of where I come from, for years, I thought I was eating healthy. And then when I start, and this isn't the case for everyone, and then when I started tracking my food in an app to see the actual macro breakdown, I realized how much I was lacking in certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of where my theory of when I coach people through nutrition, I like to use an abundance mindset approach, an abundance approach, a what can we add to your plate rather than what foods can we get rid of. And so for me, I had been vegetarian for 6 years and I had decided that I wanted to put on muscle. And so when I hired my first coaches, they told me, they prescribed me a protein goal. And I started like logging the food I was eating. And I was like, you know what? I don't know if I can do this as a vegetarian. And there's vegetarians that I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast, but there's vegetarians out there that can do it. But I'd made the choice between eating more whole food rather than, the processed vegetarian protein choices. Um,
Right.
and at the time my stomach couldn't digest dairy very well, so that was kind of out of the picture. I have come to train my body to be able to consume dairy and be able to absorb the protein that from those food sources. But so the point is, though, if I had never tracked my food, I wouldn't have necessarily known what I was lacking. And I was definitely lacking in protein. And it showed in my body because I was thin. I looked fit because I'd been working out for 5 years, lifting weights, doing cardio, doing yoga, all the things that you're supposed to do. Um, but my body couldn't come to have the shape I wanted because it didn't have the necessary resource to
Right.
actually build the muscle, which for everyone listening, the muscle's actually what's giving you the shape that you're looking for.
Right.
It's not, you're not shaving away fat to get that shape. You are sculpting with muscle to get that shape. And so protein is the most important nutrient for building that muscle. So,
Well, and if you're not consuming it, then your body can't transform it into that. Like, if you're not getting the amino acids and the foundation of what muscle is made out of into your body, which we're, like you said earlier, we're not saying you can't through being vegan, but it's going to be a lot longer route to get there and to get to that thing. I read something the other day too to double down on what you're saying about like the shape of you. I read something, I think I actually posted it too. I think Paul posted it. Um,
shout out, Paul.
yeah, right. He posted something that said you something to the effect of like you're not going to get a bodybuilder's body by doing cardio or something like that. And I was like, yeah, dude, because everybody thinks that like you got to jump on a treadmill to like lose weight and like look like this person. And it's like, no, you can tell when somebody only runs
Yeah.
because they have a specific look to them. Like you look at anybody who's training for like an Ironman or a triathlon or anything like that, they're super lean because they can't keep any muscle on them
Hmm.
because of the cardio that they're like putting in. So I love, yeah, that you brought that up because I think people miss that or you got to have your salad and you got to have this and you got to have that. Um, to also just kind of how we're opposite. I told her this the other day. I have never tracked my calories ever because I'm so in tune with my body that I can see it. I can feel it. I can tell just by how my clothes fit. I know what I've been consuming too much of and have overindulging in. And I know, my birthday's right around the corner. So I'm like, we got to cut this out and that out, whatever. But again, to double down on not cutting out, I also believe in that. If I am cutting something out, I just replace whatever isn't serving me with something that serves me better. I don't ever shelf anything 100%
Yeah.
because I also don't want it to have that much power over me. I'm not going to wake up and be like, I'm just somebody who doesn't eat this or doesn't consume that or doesn't do this. No, I'm putting into my body what is serving me for that time and the intention behind why it is that I'm consuming it.
Yeah. And I think it's a superpower that you have developed through a lot of other self-development and deep self-worth, deep self-work to be able to be that intuitive with your body. A lot of people who don't do that are going to need something to center them and to help them actually see what they're doing. Because if you have maybe disordered eating or you've
Right.
just never like, and disordered eating could be overeating or undereating. Disordered
Yep.
eating could be, to me, not even eat like if you're always eating processed food, the way those processed foods like chips and fast food are engineered to make you desire more, and they're
Ultimately.
engineered to not make you full. And so that food has in turn basically developed for a lot of Americans disordered eating because you aren't in tune with your body anymore because the food you're eating doesn't allow you to be. And that's not your fault. It's the system and it's maybe how you grew up. Maybe you grew up eating fast food and that's all you've ever known, or maybe you grew up only
Lack
eating
of education.
exactly. Maybe you've grown up only eating frozen or boxed meals and you don't know how to cook. So it's not your fault, but that might need a little bit more work to to interrupt that pattern. It might need a little bit more work to interrupt that pattern through systemized tracking. And I tell all my clients the end goal for the systemized tracking is to build that intuition. And so,
Totally.
yeah. And so when my clients are asking me questions like, because a lot of my clients I have adapted. I used to have my clients track protein, fats, and carbs all separately. I've adapted to now have my clients track protein and then overall calories, and they can kind of choose how they want to use their fats and carbs because those are both energy sources for the body. We could do a whole podcast episode about fats versus carbs. That's a hot topic.
Well, I was gonna say and double it down again on what you said earlier. The only way that I'm just an anomaly for most things, but tracked progress is successful progress. And really that's the only way. And I track my stuff in other ways. But I will say I've been on each end of the spectrum where when I was training for my Spartan program, there was a couple of days where I was standing up and getting dizzy. I didn't have a whole lot of energy. I was running out of energy just at this rapid rate. And I'm like, what is going on? And I jumped on and did an in-body scan really quick, and I was down to like 9% body fat. That's like dangerous.
Yeah, especially
And
for women.
because I just wasn't incorporating enough fat into my diet. I was eating vegetables and protein, and that's pretty much all I was consuming.
Yeah,
Not intentionally, but just because of how good I was feeling, what it was I was eating, our our schedules and our constraints within our day can kind of dictate what we're eating and how we eat it and when we eat it and how often we eat it. And so I've been on that side of it. And then now, because I've been consuming more fats and carbs, and I know that, hover around 11, 12%. And right now I'm at about 14, 15%.
yeah,
So it's like, if I were tracking that better, I could probably see it coming before I feel uncomfortable from it or whatever. But
yeah.
back to what you're using it for, tracked progress is successful progress.
Yeah. And it helps too. So when you're not educated necessarily on the effect of certain food groups or for certain macronutrients or even certain micronutrients, if you're not educated already on what those are supposed to do for you, um, having the data in front of you allows you to interpret it, right? Like if you don't have the data, you can't interpret the data. And then you just
Right.
continue guessing. And I spent years trying that. I spent years eliminating bread to see if I'd get skinnier because I wasn't eating bread. Or like I spent years not eating dairy to see if blah, 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 but I never actually had the data in front of me to be like, okay, like, no, I can clearly see what I ate for these last few months was that the issue? So when I have clients who ask me questions about their food intake, like what's too much fat? And I'm like, okay, well, let's look at these days. Which days, this day you only ate 50 grams of fat. This day you ate 80 grams of fat. Did you feel any different? How was digestion? How was energy? Helping people dive into it because there is a safe range to be in to be eating enough, right? So like for fat, I try to have my clients all stay about 30% of their calories from fat because that's going to help you produce your hormones. It helps
Muscle growth,
muscle growth,
energy.
energy, all the things. And so I try to keep everyone above that. But if you, like me, feel better and feel more energized and feel like your skin glows more when you eat way more fat than carbs, then please be my guest. But also, if you're maybe Aisha training for the Spartan race and you're training super, super, super hard and you need to have carbs on the go, bring carbs, but make sure you're not
Stagnant
villainizing.
with the fat or carbs too. What would you say? Villainize it? Is that what
Yeah,
you said?
don't villainize one or the
Totally.
other because they
Yeah.
both have their time and place, and our bodies are smart. And you could go through a time period, this is called metabolic flexibility. You could go through a time period eating high carb and then go through a time period eating high fat, and your body can adapt to that. Like I used
Well,
to
what's
eat
the
way,
intention behind the food it is that you're eating?
yeah, yeah. And so when I was building muscle, like I put on 15 pounds of muscle eating a very high carb diet. But my hormone health kind of deteriorated from it. And so now I've adapted my body to be able to really successfully use fat as energy. And
Totally.
like I said, that could be an entire podcast episode itself, fat versus carbs. But that's the way that I like to help clients educate themselves on food, just in general, like what's in your food. People think peanut butter is a protein source, which it is, but it's mostly fat. It's almost two
Yeah.
times as much fat as it is protein.
That's when you're just trying to get the calories in for calories out. I've walked around the gym eating peanut butter out of the jar. Like when I got down to 9%, I'm like, doesn't matter what I eat right now. I just need to get something in it.
Yeah.
Um, so with all of that, let's follow up with like what do we mean by one size does not fit all? Because I would like to touch on a few things that we've already kind of said out loud with that. And that's kind of like what we're talking about. So how does this tie into the one size does not fit all? What are we talking about? What does that mean to you? And what is this, what we've talked about with nutrition mean? Like, how does that translate for you?
Yeah, so like I've been saying, there is not one macro breakdown. So macros are carbs, proteins, fats for anybody who might not know. You can't come to me and just ask me what should my macro breakdown be without me knowing your age, your sex, your weight, your activity level, what you're already eating. Like there's so many different key data points that I need. And even if I use the perfect formula that's out there to help you find your macros, it doesn't matter because it also depends on what habits you've already been doing. So, one size does not fit all because you also have to realize that not everybody's starting at the same level. Everybody's in
Yeah.
a different starting place. And so, you can't just give that cookie cutter program to anyone. You can't just comment on somebody's post to get your free macro breakdown because they don't know you. They don't know you. They don't know how much fast food you've been eating, or they don't know that maybe you are going to train for a Spartan race, or they don't know that you are trying to heal your hormones. Like,
Yeah.
and everybody's body kind of works differently. So you also, a lot of clients that come to me, they're like, well, how quick can we get this done? I'm like, girl,
It
it's
doesn't work like that.
because we need probably at
Not if
least,
you're doing it right.
right. And we probably need at least 3 months to figure out what's going on here.
At least.
At least 3 months. A lot of people don't actually start truly successfully hitting their protocols till after 3 months because
Yep.
it takes so much
Yep.
discovery and building and evolving and adapting, which we can get into as well. But that's with nutrition, that's how I see our theme here coming into play. One size doesn't fit all.
Yeah. And I laughed earlier because what you were describing is what people do when they get online and they see something and they see this thing, again for like pattern recognition and getting to know yourself, because basically the bigger theme of this is that one size does not fit all, because the things that you're seeing online work for that person who's promoting it. They tailored something that they found works for them because they got to know themselves very, very, very well. And that's not all of it, but the example I was going to give that's kind of outside of what we're talking about, but it still applies. When I first started getting in shape, I was listening to some philosopher, somebody on a podcast that was like, your Instagram feed is what you're feeding your brain.
Hmm.
And so I was like, oh, okay, I got to like redirect everything. So also what they had suggested was start looking at posts and feeds of people that you want to look like, because you're subconsciously teaching your mind to get to that place. So I ended up doing that. And there's two sides to this, because it's contradictory what I'm saying right now, because I started to follow people that I wanted to look like. And that was the one size fits all for me. But I'll get to the end of that. So, anyways, I started looking at people doing that, taking things from what they were already doing and applying it to myself. And it's trial and error, trial and error, trial and error. So, back to that 3 months, you know, let's actually talk about what that timeline actually looks like if you're going to be serious about it. My experience is about 9 months to a year,
Mm-hmm.
when you're really actually starting to see what works and what doesn't. If you're actually giving it, you know, keeping track of it, tracking the data. I did track my food at one point in time, like in the beginning of it, but it just for me, I can't stand doing it. I can't. But so one size does not fit all. It was overwhelming looking at all these females online and thinking like, I can just do this thing almost like pushing a button and being like, well, and then being frustrated that it didn't work for me. It's a self-sabotaging loop and then that turns into an excuse as to why you don't do it. Well, I've tried this, 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 and this. You've tried what everybody else has tried doing for themselves. You haven't tried doing what actually works for you and paid attention to what works for you.
Yeah.
So I think it's this, to get back to what you were saying, I can't come to you and say, give me the magic numbers of what my macros and my micro or macro and is it micro? Is the other side of it the
Yeah,
macro
micros
and
like fiber, sugar
right,
intake.
right, right. And we don't even need to go there because they but when you start looking at that, you need those variables of what's already going on in order to get to where you're going. So it's like I think people aren't realizing that a part of that is also you're asking us to come up with the solution for you.
Mm.
There isn't enough amount of money in the world for us to be able to do that for you because that's the missing part of you getting to know yourself. Getting one of us to help guide you through that, I think, is a better way of looking at it rather than thinking, well, she looks like this, so she must have all the answers. That ain't it. And as a female, especially, we fluctuate throughout our day
Mm.
in how our body retains water, what you've been eating. Sometimes I will have had so much sodium the night before, I woke up and I'm super swollen. If I step on the scale and I try to get some type of information from that, if I'm not looking at it for an information perspective, I'm going to be discouraged and I'm going to be like, well, what I'm doing isn't working. No, it's taking inventory of how did the last 24 hours go? Where am I at in my cycle? Where are my hormones at? Am I even familiar with that? Am I familiar with my thought process of how I talk to my body after I eat food, while I'm eating food, during eating? It's like there's all these other things that come into play that have, I would say that's like 75% of the 25% that they spend with us talking about information, gathering the information. How well do you even gather the information? You know what I mean? Like there's so many other things that go into this that make it one size does not fit all. You cannot put somebody else's program on and have it work. But if you're with a good trainer like Lindsay or myself, who's going to tailor the program to where you're at currently, how to move forward within that, how to make it not miserable getting through it, because it shouldn't be a punishment. It should be a celebration of welcoming change.
Yeah, yeah. And we've talked a lot about, guiding yourself, learning about yourself, and we all know how hard that is. And
Mhm.
it made me just remember a couple of weeks ago, I actually Googled, why is self-accountability so hard? And well, I didn't Google, I put in Chat GPT, of course. Um, I'll just
Yes.
I'll just give like the little breakdown because I just thought of this. It says self-accountability is hard for many people because it requires brutal honesty, discipline, and ownership of our actions. Things that often go against our natural tendencies to seek comfort and avoid discomfort. Here are a few reasons why it's such a challenge. Cognitive dissonance, fear of failure, instant gratification, lack of clear goals, external blame, and emotional avoidance. So
Mm.
I think this is where, having a coach can help you. But like Aisha is saying, and like I'm saying, is you don't want to look for a coach that claims they can get you X results in X amount of days, guaranteed. It's not going to happen because it's up to you. That coach might work for you if you already have self-accountability.
It's called marketing, people. I hate to say that. I hate to call people out that way. And we do live in this world where we kind of need to be sharks, but
Yeah,
I'm an honest shark. Okay. You're going to see results and feel much more fulfilled by what Lindsay and I do versus somebody who's going to guarantee something for you. That's what do they call it? That's an old saying is that somebody's selling you snake oil. Okay. That is. And you, not to say that they're wrong, or maybe, that works for somebody who's further along in their journey, because again, to kind of bring up like the food and stuff that we eat, I know what I need to stop eating right now to look different in 3 days.
yeah,
And that's going to require a different amount of discipline that I would never, ever, 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 ever introduce. I would never introduce that radical of a mindset to somebody who's just starting.
exactly. And that's
Because,
why, yeah, and that's why the social media stuff can get hard, especially like I feel like early day social media when it was more where it wasn't everyone on social media, where it
right.
was the professional athletes are on social media now, so you can get a glimpse in what they're doing, and the bodybuilders are on social media, so you can get a glimpse into what they're doing. And maybe you start following a bodybuilder while they're in prep, and that's when you see them on their cardio machine for an hour a day. So that's when you decide, oh, I need to do a bunch of cardio to look like them. But guess what you didn't see? You didn't see their year or 2 years of their off season where they packed on all that muscle by training really hard and probably doing very minimal cardio, maybe a little bit to keep their heart healthy, but they weren't doing cardio to look like that. Okay. They
They
probably
weren't doing cardio to look like that. They were doing cardio. Guess what? It's not going to make sense to you either. They're doing cardio like that to build muscle because when you spend low impact on something like Stairmaster or even the treadmill at a high incline, you're building muscle. You're not getting your heart rate up to a point where you're having to um, blow through a bunch of calories in order to keep up with what your heart rate is doing while you're on the treadmill or the Stairmaster. You are introducing, God, I don't know how to explain it on like a sign. Maybe you can explain it a little bit more, but a lot of people who are bodybuilders, they're on the Stairmaster or whatever, not because they're doing cardio, but because they're building muscle in their legs because of the science of how it works. But nobody wants to do that work either. Nobody wants to get on the Stairmaster for an hour at level 3 or 4,
Yeah.
you know?
So what I understand from bodybuilding prep and what you can use in a deficit is the cardio is for fat loss in certain ways. Some
Yeah.
bodybuilders, like especially for women, legs are really hard to let go of fat, right? And so what I kind of always think of it as when you're building muscle, it might look like you're kind of replacing fat, right?
Hmm.
You can't really spot reduce fat loss, but you can choose specifically where you want to build
Build
muscle.
muscle.
And
Yes.
so if you're on the Stairmaster and you're really intentional about the way you're using your leg, not leaning, not flinging your legs around,
Holding on.
right?
Yes.
You have to actually step through the leg to engage the muscle, to pump the food you just ate into that muscle and
Yes.
demand the body to process it that way. Um, but if you are following bodybuilders or a very advanced fitness professional or somebody who's already built their physique and they're using cardio to cut fat, one, it works for them because they have muscle. And
Right.
the more muscle you have, the more efficient you are at burning fat and losing fat. Two, they are so strategically aligning the calories they're intaking and their cardio. And people
So
will
that they don't deplete the muscle they've built.
exactly, because you can only go so low in your calories for it to be healthy. And bodybuilders go lower than anybody else should because that's their sport. They don't do it for health, they do it for sport. Same as like UFC fighters or wrestlers. They don't do it for health, they do it for the sport. So nobody should be following their protocols if you're not doing the sport.
Right.
You can only bring your calories so low to like actually live your life that they'll introduce also cardio to be, a more efficient way of getting those calories a little bit lower while also, like Aisha is saying, maintaining the muscle rather than letting your body tap in and taking away the muscle. Because your body, if you put your calories too low, your body will, depending on where you're at in your journey, either store fat or it will start to deplete muscle. And nobody wants that. That's the worst case scenario. I would rather put on extra fat than lose any muscle. That's the worst case scenario.
I
Like,
totally agree. And to piggyback on that with what she just said, you know, 9 out of 10 clients and or new clients that I take on think that they need to be in a deficit of calories in order to lose weight and to build muscle. And I'm telling you right now, it does not work that way. You are going to burn the most amount of fat by strength training. You don't even need to do metabolic training, metcons, metabolic conditioning. That's going to force your central nervous system to take on weight while also taking on like cardio work. It sucks, but you want to see results faster. And I'm not talking like a HIIT program. Okay, I'm not saying that. And even metabolic training, that's even a little more advanced than what most people can get into. But if your trainer knows how to do that and your goal is just to lose weight, man, step into it and see how you like it because it feels good. You sweat a lot, you burn a lot of calories, and I think it just I'm that kind of trainer though. Like when your first day with me, and my clients can attest to this, that we should get testimonies of people that we put through workouts because your first workout with me, I am so hard on you because I want to see what you're actually made of.
mm,
I want to see what you can do. I want you to see what you can do because you're stepping onto the floor with me thinking you can't do anything. Most of the time, most people are like, I can't do that, I can't lift that. But anyways, back to uh,
Can
not
you,
getting off
Chris,
on a tangent.
can you tell us what Metcon training is? I don't know if everyone will know what that is.
Yeah. So Metcons, it's metabolic conditioning. So
Okay.
you are teaching your body how to efficiently burn calories while being in the same space of cardio and lifting. So I mean, it's basically like CrossFit training. You know,
Okay.
you're introducing way it would be like one of my favorite workouts is 2 years ago, CrossFit workouts called 24.1 or something. But you do single arm dumbbell snatches. So you do 21, 15, 9. So each round, the first set of everything is 21. So you do 21 on one arm, stop, do 21 burpees over the dumbbell, stop, 21 on the other side, and then 21 back again. That's one round. Then you do 15, then you do 9. So, you're incorporating that weight. So that's the strength training, but the jumping, the burpees, and the overhead using your hips to get the weight up, not your arm. um, that is encouraging your heart rate to get up. And so we are burning those calories a lot faster. And I love doing that because the in-body scans that we do at Mountainside show you your metabasal rate. So it shows you the amount of calories that you burn just being alive,
hmm
not doing anything, just sitting at home. So if you come into the gym and you tell me that you've been eating more, but that number doesn't move or go up, but it actually goes down, you're lying to me because numbers don't lie. That number is going to go up when your body starts to burn calories more efficiently. It's going to go down when you've consumed less because your body's not burning through those calories the way that it needs to. And so, to piggyback again on what you had said, when your body doesn't blow through calories or you're not giving it the food that it needs, it's going to hold on to fat. It's going to take you longer to get rid of fat because your body doesn't know when it's going to get its next source of food. And we need fat to survive. I just got done referencing the fact that I was at 9%. I looked great, don't get me wrong, but it was miserable. I did not feel good. I couldn't think straight. I almost couldn't sit through workouts with people because I was so depleted of energy because I was outputting, I was burning through more calories than what I was giving my body. And it started to affect me mentally, cognitively.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's scary. And for a woman, for a female, again, it's different. For a female to be under, I don't know, I would argue 12%, depending on what you're doing, that's dangerous. That's what do you call it? Essential fat. That is the fat that needs to be on your body for your organs to work properly.
Yeah.
So I'm not perfect. I may have gone the other direction, but it was still like noticing that and like, okay, I need to go back to the drawing board because this is now affecting my health.
Yep. And fat's also part of our endocrine system.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's hormones. If anyone doesn't know,
Yes.
that's our hormones. And we talked about in the birth control episode how important hormones are for women. And it's the same for men, but men can, because they have less complexities in their hormones, they can go
Mm-hmm.
to a lower amount of body fat. Their muscle fibers and their muscle makeup is actually different from women's. And the way our brains process things, our brain is part of our body. The way our brains process things, um, affects the way that our physical body also does. So I think muscle, we should do a whole podcast episode on muscle and the
Yeah.
body. Because I think that'd be super cool. It would take some research for us to come with really great information for you guys. But that's another reason why one size does not fit all because men and women are very different. And for example, my boyfriend walks around at like freaking 12% body fat and cuts down to like 7 before his,
Yeah.
but I sit at 17% and I feel really good here. I think when I was lower than that is when my skin started to break out. I was
Yes.
real bitch too. So
Yeah, because you're cranky. And another thing to touch on is that males and females are different. I would also like to point out the fact that the way Lindsay and I look is not normal for a female to look this way. Females have to work 4 times as hard to have that washboard ab look, to have intercostals showing, to have a prominent line within your chest. I think well, at least for me, I can't speak for you, but I'm in the gym so often and I utilize my time when clients cancel or whatever that I hit something. Or, to go back to the one size does not fit all and being aware of my own body and how I've connected to it. And we've talked about this as well. I speak to myself much different than any of my clients do. I even in the last 2 weeks, anybody who speaks poorly about their image or their body or their persons, I have told everybody, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to participate in that. I won't. If you want to come to the table with something, you want to talk about how it can get easier talking about your body in a more positive way, I'm all for that. But moving forward, I'm not even going to, there will be no words that come out of me to even address that because I need, in order for you to succeed with me and on your own eventually someday, you need to also tr- treat your body and your mind and how you speak to yourself better.
Yep. Yeah.
And they don't show you that in these videos and these, you know, programs and how to do all this other stuff. I mean, almost nobody talks about the word and how we do you thank your body? Have you thanked it? Because the current body you sit in listening to this podcast has protected you. It has woken you up every day. It has had to go through the abuse you put it through without thanking it.
Hmm.
And I sit and think about that a lot because of how much I used to abuse my body with substances and alcohol and the food I was eating, thinking it was good, and I'm not coming down on anybody, but what I am doing is hoping that I can encourage you guys to take inventory of your own life because that's what's going to help you find the program that works for you. What's the ethos behind the program that somebody's producing for you?
Yeah.
How did they come up with that? How do they know that? Did they, I'll just call it out right now. Did they chat GPT it? Did they just throw that in there and throw a program at you? Because I'm going to tell you right now, you don't really need a trainer. You can talk to it, tell it whatever it is that you want it to do, but you're not going to be successful in doing that either if you don't have the information about yourself in order to do it. You don't just get to walk into it and say, write a program for me.
Yeah.
Doesn't work like that, even with that.
Yeah. And I want to touch on like the thanking our bodies. Like a lot of people think it's too late. Like, oh, I've spent my whole life eating like this. Oh, it's my genetics. Oh, I'm old. No, it is never too late. And that's the incredible thing about the human body is the lifestyle that me and Aisha live. If somebody has never lived, like if somebody has never exercised, if somebody has never eaten an apple or a steak or anything like that, that could literally heal you so quickly. People have cured their own cancer eating whole foods and
Yep.
exercising and changing their mental state. It's all about the mind. Like if you
Your food,
you could change the way you eat and you could start exercising, but if you still believe you're sick, if you still believe you're fat, if you still believe it's too late, it won't work.
and the mindset you have while consuming that food, your food is made of molecules and it listens to what it is. It doesn't matter if you're thinking it or you're saying it out loud while you eat, which brings me to something else like the input to output, external input versus internal signal, right? The deeper conversation about what we're talking about is do you trust yourself enough to figure out what works for you, or are you outsourcing your intuition to someone else's structure? Which we kind of, the example I'll give for that is in the birth control episode. We go to doctors all the time expecting them to have the answer for us and our bodies that we won't even question what the doctor is saying, even though something in you can't tell me you've never been to the doctor's office and they say something and you're like, that don't seem right though. That's that thing you should be listening to. And what's happening here, what we were just talking about when, man, what did you just say about like, when we're faced with people who say, it's too late, or, I don't have any balance because that's the first thing to go when you get older. No, it ain't. It's you're just stuck in this feedback loop that you haven't stepped out of, and that's the only thing that makes sense to your brain. And there is some truth behind, as we get older and the more stuck we get into those loops, the harder it is to get out of those loops. because your
Absolutely.
brain has such a neural pathway so deep in the brain that it's like, yeah, I don't want to change to create another pathway
Because
because you're,
our minds
huh?
and our body, our minds and our body want to keep us comfortable. They want to keep us safe. They want to use the least amount of energy possible because we have not evolved, our physical bodies have not evolved that much. And so
No.
that's what we think will preserve us, but that's not true
Well,
anymore.
no. And food and movement should amplify you in your day. You should walk out of a workout, whether or not somebody saw you doing it or not, and just think to yourself, like, I just fucking did that.
Yeah.
And I got that done. And now I'm gonna like I get excited about getting my protein in after workout because also too, I don't know where you're at with this, but I see the results of almost every single workout to the day about a week later. So a week from now, I'll see like the food that I've eaten. I'll see like, oh, I hit shoulders and I can see like the gains that I've gotten from it because of how I introduced that input to output and the signal that my body is getting. Or, you know, I'll even a lot of my clients who have like a lot of internal stuff going on, I can feel when they show up to a session and I'm like, I'm not encouraging you to not move, but I am encouraging you to rest if you need to. There's been a lot the last couple of days this week. I shared with you today. I'm like energetically low. I have not worked out today because I'm not about to force my body through something it doesn't want to do. I'm not going to inflame it, but I am going to eat properly. I'm going to like pay attention to how I can serve my body in this low energetic state, which probably has to do with some food I'm missing.
And that's another thing where it's one size doesn't fit all because I believe for certain people, no matter how you feel, no matter how your energy is, if your biggest opportunity is showing up for yourself and being consistent, if that's your number one thing you need to work on, even on your low energy days, if you had committed to a workout, I believe you got to go because
Oh, totally.
you haven't built the consistency, and that's
Yep.
where one size
Yep.
doesn't fit all. Because guess what? This is another thing. To get balance, you have to see both sides of the pendulum, just like you
Hmm.
explained with body fat, just like I went through with always skipping a workout when I felt tired to never, ever, 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 ever. For 2 years straight, I never skipped a workout, ever. And then my hormones crashed. And then I realized,
Hmm.
bro, you gotta chill. Like you have to chill out. You do not need to do 7 workouts a week. Like chill. And so to see
But even
balance,
if you're gonna, just moderation, know when your body needs to rest. Because again, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's like your joints take it on, your mind takes it on. Like eventually you get to the point where your body is screaming, please stop.
right. And for those of us who are still trying to build up consistency, though, you need to still show up
Yeah.
and give whatever your 100% is for that day. It does
Yep.
not have to look like your lower body day doesn't have to look like it did last week when you were on top of the world. Okay. Just do it body weight. I don't care. Do all your exercises body weight or
Move.
still show up to the gym and just get on the treadmill to finish your steps. Like, just keep the momentum going, though,
Yes.
because if you have problems, where you crush it for a month or you crush it for 3 weeks. And that last week, every week, especially as a woman, if you aren't feeling so good and you skip, guess what? You're not going to go back next month. You just won't because that's your pattern and you have to break it by still showing up if you feel like shit. Like it just is what it is. And I hope that a lot of people don't have to see the extremes of the pendulum like
Yeah.
maybe you or I have. And that's why having a coach can be so beneficial to help
Hmm.
you see progress honestly a little bit faster. But you have to realize like what is your main opportunity? Like what is that one thing that is really holding you back? In business, you would call it your bottleneck. What is your bottleneck?
Hmm.
What's
Hmm.
preventing you from getting that next step? If it's
Yep.
consistency, I need you to show up to every committed workout that you have.
Right.
Doesn't have to be the same 100% every week. It really
And
does.
I'll clean up what I said a little bit because you've had to kind of defend this a couple of times. Yeah, I'm not saying don't move. I'm not saying like there is a very, in my opinion, like a very universal thing. Life gets in the way, whatever it is, but I never go maybe 2 full days where I'm just doing like light mobility or whatever, but I'm always getting up and moving my body. But on low energetic days, a lot of times I look for that movement because it actually helps me get out of the funk that I'm in.
Yeah.
So, you know, but again, we're going back to the self again. We're going back to what works for us. But in the beginning, yes, you are correct. In the beginning, when I was frustrated and there was all this resistance and all this, I don't want to do this. I made sure to get in, even if I was just going to walk in the door,
Yep.
complain about it, and walk back out. It didn't matter. I made it my foot to the floor of the gym, did it, whatever.
Exactly.
And if you can't chip away at those little things, of course you're not going to chip away at a program that's 6 months long. That's just, you know, smaller bites are easier to succeed with as well. I will say that. It's the way that I did it without a trainer was I just picked 3 or 4 machines that I knew that I liked. And I just went in and I hit those until it was sore or whatever, until I got bored of them. And then I picked different machines, or even if it was just one machine I was going to go in and sit on, whatever. And I love that you keep backing that up because, yes, I think there needs to be an emphasis on that, especially with, if you're taking something that is aiding in weight loss, um, using supplements to aid in that. We've all, I think, dabbled in some type of supplement or something that tries to help you lose weight because none of us want to do it. Sit in the right way of doing it. But that's going to catch up to a lot of people who aren't building that foundation
Mm.
of knowing how the muscle grows and whatever. Like this is, yes, a time where we have easy access to shortcuts. Um, but also another reason why I love connecting with you and have connected with you is because we just have the same belief system, whether or not we're doing it the same way to get there.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, that's why we're having this conversation to begin with.
I love that you just said foundation because that's one huge thing I think, again, one size does not fit all, but there is the foundational pieces that make sense for almost everyone, right?
Universal. The foundation is the universal, whatever. Like,
Exactly. And so like we could say, everybody like this is a very, out there way of explaining it. We could say that everybody needs to get 7,000, 10,000 steps a day, right? Somebody without legs can't go do that. You know, like I thought
yeah,
of that the other day. I was
you're
like,
totally right.
I want to post something about how everyone should hit this range of steps. I'm like, literally, somebody could come at me and be like, what if I don't have legs? And I'd be like, you're right. One size doesn't fit all. But that's a very foundational majority of people need to be getting about 7 to 10. I love a good 12K step day. I feel so good. If I get a ton of steps, I feel amazing. Okay. But there's a difference between those foundational pieces and the details. So there's a difference between
Hmm.
everybody needing to get a good amount of steps in their day to the bodybuilder or the athlete that's doing incline walk at 12 incline at 4 speed for 20 minutes 5 times a week. Okay, do we see the difference here, everybody? Like, there's a difference between everybody should work out 3 to 5 days a week and the the Aishas of the world who train for a Spartan race or the Lindsays of the world who are trying to look like a bodybuilder. Our programs are going to look different. Our 3 to 5 days are going to look completely different. But that foundational piece of like, yes, about everybody should be at the gym about 3 to 5 times a week. That foundational piece of everybody should have 1 to 2 rest days. But again, some athletes don't take any rest days, but some athletes also get 12 to 16 hours of sleep a night. It's
Yeah, because I'm
yeah.
only just hitting 8 hours and I'm like, this is a whole different ballgame when you get all eight. Um, I was gonna say something. What was I gonna say? Yeah, I think it's important to know like the intention behind what the movement is that you're doing. It's really not as simple as saying, I just want to lose weight.
Yeah.
Okay, well, your weight's gonna fluctuate because when you try to lose weight, hopefully you're putting on muscle. So it's gonna be this weird peak and a weird valley because your body's getting used to like a different baseline, right? But also, again, I can't stress this part enough where it's like your body holds the deepest amount of data.
Mm.
And so I guess for me, I just want to drill home that you shouldn't be trying to become somebody else or somebody that you're seeing online. You should become somebody who listens to yourself and then has questions about how to move forward with that. And that might seem like even slower, but actually you're going to see results a lot faster when you get to know your body and aren't relying on somebody else to tell you what the answer is for you. You know, again, we've said this before, I think. If you want the wrong answer, ask everybody.
Mhm.
And that's not to say don't educate yourself, but that's saying like know yourself first before stepping out into this like really overwhelming world of everything that the world throws at you. And the other thing I'd like to point out as well, I mean, I don't know, I think we both eat, we put the same kind of stuff into our bodies, right? I don't take any kind of supplement. I don't, I sleep, I make sure to get sleep done well. And my food could always be a little bit better, just like with more intake for myself. But, you know, I'm not somebody walking around claiming to do what I do, how I do it, how efficiently I do it, and how I teach other people how to do it, relying on something else that I'm not um, being forthright about, right? It's it is food and sleep and how I talk to myself, how I keep track of all that, the journaling, the things, the bottlenecking. I love that you brought that up because that's actually been a term that I've been using a lot where it's like you are going to get to a point where you plateau and you plateau because your body needs something different. You don't plateau because it's not working. You're plateauing because your body is asking for something different. That's it. Because this is not a one day you're going to wake up and have a box checked and be like, I'm in shape and that's it for the rest of my life. No, no, no. No, I looked in the mirror one day and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? I got to keep this up now,
Yeah.
because I think people don't get to the point where they get to celebrate their bodies and then look at it and be like, oh shit, now I have to actually keep up with this.
Yeah. I did a group call for all my one-on-one clients Wednesday about making fitness a lifestyle. And
Hmm.
well, I won't, that's not the point of this, but the three main things that I brought to that conversation, and I was super excited that a lot of them had really great takeaways from this call. It's up on my YouTube. If anybody wants that, they can let us know. But um sustainability, consistency,
Mm.
and variety. And so a lot of us, we talked about how sustainability and consistency could sound like the same thing, but I almost think they're opposite because you need a program that is sustainable for you. If you don't want to work out 5 days a week, if you never, ever, ever will do that, then don't build a program where you have to work out 5 days a week. Because in 2 months, you're going to be over it and you're going to quit altogether, right? So,
Mhm.
sustainability, also not making yourself restrict your favorite foods, right? Sustainability is finding out what's the appropriate amount of times I should be eating ice cream throughout the month, right? You don't need to have ice cream every day. Or if you do, maybe you have one little like scoop or something, right? Like learning how to fit this into your life, if like depending on your goals, because you might not be able to eat ice cream every day while you're in a fat loss phase, but you might be able to eat ice cream every day once you put on 10 pounds of muscle.
Well, also, I'll throw this at people, right? What happens if you're trying to get in shape and you're not privileged enough to be buying the food that it is that requires you to have the body it is that you want? What if you have to look at what you have access to? Because I've been in a situation like that where, I remember being like 19, 20 years old trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to eat and then having to choose what fits you best at that time. It's like the sustainability, back to what you're saying, is where I'm trying to go with that. Is yeah, what is going to serve your body best for the for the longevity
Yeah.
and the efficiency of that longevity.
Hmm.
Consistency, I think, is more has to do with like the discipline of showing up to do the thing.
Yeah. So consistency is showing up for yourself. And that's going to be the just the layer after layer after layer,
Yep.
the
Yep.
small wins getting you to your goal. And
Yep.
it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't
No.
say perfect. It doesn't say perfection. It says consistency because being consistent is checking off 80% of the boxes, not
Yep.
necessarily 100 of them. And then variety is the third piece I put in, and this kind of plays into a few different things. And one is preventing injury,
Mhm.
doing a variety of, if you're only squatting, deadlifting, benching, that's it, you're gonna hurt yourself. So it prevents injury. It helps with the mental stimulation of it, the engagement of it, having different things to do every 8 weeks. And then having like mobility that you do before your weightlifting, and then you maybe do cardio every couple of days. Like having that variety is going to help you sustain it and help you show up consistently. And then it also kind of plays into how long this journey is making fitness a lifestyle. Like we have to do this forever, guys. You have to take care of your health forever. And it's going to look different in different areas of your life because of that sustainability factor. But it's okay to have new goals. And we talked about this on our handstand podcast, how I will pick a timeline, right? Like every year I
Oh,
set
uh-huh.
every year I will set goals for myself. And then after I hit that benchmark or after I achieve the goal, that's when I can pick a new one. And so this is different than somebody saying, oh, this week I want to get strong. And then the next week they're like, this week I want to get fast. It doesn't work like that. So variety comes with a lot of different pieces to it, but you have to also dial it in and have timelines. So you're not just wasting your time.
Well, or feeling like, the brain doesn't like open-ended stuff, right? So if you're inside of a program that requires X amount of time, like the Spartan race, I built a program for 6 months, showing up to something for 6 months, finishing that, walking into that on days where I literally was throwing a tantrum, where I'm like, I don't want to do this today. But then you get through that, and that's what makes it almost like, honestly, I'm not even impressed by the fact that I won. I'm more impressed by the fact that I showed up for 6 months every single weekend. Every single weekend, 4 a.m., foot on the floor, in the door, ready to move at 4 a.m. That was more impressive to me than actually winning the race because the
Absolutely.
food that goes into it. Then, you get so deep into it where I didn't even know what a deload week was till I got into it because I kept, again, with these pattern recognitions, it's like, I'm like, man, we can't keep going this hard for this long. So it forced me to look into, well, what do I do after 8 weeks? Because we got to do this again in 8 weeks. I have to revamp this now in 8 weeks. And so, back to what you were saying about sustainability, it's like you start asking yourself, what gives me sustainable energy? Am I keeping track of that? What do I know works for me? What movement feels expressive versus performative? I know exactly what my moves are because there are days where it looks like I'm working out. I'm not. I'm just showing off. Like it's like, when am I most clear? When am I going from copying something that I saw that maybe I'm not familiar with, like, this calisthenics program that I keep putting down because like you said, it's so boring to me that I just need to make it smaller and bite it off in different chunks, but you know, with where we're at in our journeys, I think there's like this stigmatism of like, we just wake up and push a button and that's like what it is. It's like, no, I'm 5, 6 years into this, 3 years for really, for real, paying attention to what workouts work, what doesn't, that foundational, like universal, I think, message through the movement that people have versus trying to shove it down somebody's throat by saying bodybuilding is the best way to go or functional fitness is the best way to go or mobility or calisthenics. No. What are you trying to learn how to do? What is it that you want to do with your own body? And then you seek those people out through that
Yeah.
vantage point, you know?
And it's
Start
okay.
running experiments.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's okay to like try different things. Um, a phrase I really like, and I think it really blends well with how you keep saying, try different experiments, is something I learned in regards to supplements, which you had also
Mm.
mentioned, is test, don't guess. And so for supplements, for example, don't just randomly buy supplements and take them.
No.
Again, there are supplements that are like super, super studied, super proven, that are generally okay for everybody to take and will benefit them. Again, that foundational piece. But then there's millions of supplements that people just are trying to sell you and you
It's
need
all just marketing. It's terrible. It's been
yeah.
so diluted.
And I think there's a time and a place for supplements, but I don't
I do
even.
too.
I don't yeah, I barely take I think I have four. I take four supplements total. And I tested my blood before us taking
Mm-hmm.
and so I talked with a professional that the first time I was in there, he said, "No, you don't need that right now. Don't waste your money." And I was like, "Pet, I
Thank
like
you.
you. I like
Yep.
you." He's like, "When you go into a muscle building phase, you can come back and get this." I was like, "Okay."
Heard.
Yep.
And for the record, I don't take supplements for like working out. I take
Right.
supplements for like cognitive in my brain. But to double back on what you just said, I have done extensive research on it because I know and have known for my whole life that I'm wired different. So instead of getting something to band-aid, I just did research on what enhances what's already there.
Yeah. I think you shared that
But
a little bit.
what's that?
I think you shared about your
Yeah.
supplements in
Yeah.
another episode, which was really cool for people to hear. So,
But
yeah.
again, I mean, we just keep talking about coming back to your own self and taking inventory of your self and
Mhm.
being cognizant of the fact that right now, I'll say it again and again and again, everything is so diluted right now. Our culture only cares about making money. They only care about selling you, I'll say it again, snake oil. I
Yeah.
have done so much research on like the supplements that you get, and they've actually, you can look it up on YouTube too, where they've done, I think Bill Nye the Science Guy does that I just aged myself in real time. Yikes. Um,
I know Bill Nye.
okay, good. But he does a thing where he'll do like he was doing like a whole food supplement of like liquid tincture or something compared to like a product that was made by Whole Foods versus like a pharmaceutical one that actually like had it in it. And whatever he did in the experiment made them change colors, showing that this one that was bought just marketed and not like the real ingredients was this color because there was only like a trace amount or enough of the ingredient in the product in order to sell it saying that it was in it.
Yep.
There could be trace amounts with placebo of everything else in a product it is that you're buying.
Yep. And so that's that people think it's super healthy to be, or it's super expensive to be healthy. But let me tell you, the biggest cut you can do is just stop with the supplements for a
Yep.
second. I
Yep.
would much rather you spend X amount of dollars on groceries per month
Protein.
rather than refilling that supplement. Like, please, please.
Honestly, and even before like this, honestly, with my experience with supplements too, I've never experienced them truly working or noticeably working until I got to the point where I'm at right now. Because your body's trying to break down and do all the other shit anyways. That introducing a supplement's just going to confuse your body.
Why it's a supplement, guys. It's supplementing what you should be getting mostly from food. And I was anti-supplement, but then you start to learn how our food these days is not the same as
Mm,
it used to be because our soil has depreciated. There's not the same vitamins and minerals in our
yeah.
soil. That's why a lot of us are very deficient in magnesium. Magnesium is a supplement that I take, but then you also have to make sure you're taking the right kind of magnesium because there's so many different kinds of magnesium. And so I became semi supplement like semi into supplements because I understand that our natural food just isn't the same anymore.
Yeah.
I hope someday, I know there's like regenerative farming and all that stuff. Someday I'll have my own little garden and hopefully I can keep my soil nice and healthy and full of minerals, but um
It's a
yeah,
lot of work.
it
Look, and
is.
we keep circling into this conversation, or I do anyways, of this culture that doesn't, it doesn't even really allow us for time to do all this. Because already in my head, I can hear clients being like, well, I don't have time for that. And I don't have a schedule for that. And I don't have this. And I don't have that. Now, while I'm very blessed to have my time be all mine, you have to also be willing to like restructure your current schedule because it's a direct reflection of what's important to you and what isn't.
Yeah.
And I can't te- you can't teach people to make themselves important to themselves.
Yeah. Yep.
But that is the number one thing, and that's what I say to a lot of my clients, especially my private clients. I have a very candid conversation with them where I'm like, "Do you want it or not?" because I'm not interested in training you if you're not. I'm not interested in having this happy hour at the gym without a drink in my hand, basically mindset that a lot of people that come to me, which the environment kind of calls for that a little bit too. But, and I'm not saying this to be mean, and I'm not saying this because I like push people away, because I would never turn somebody away who wants to learn. But what I do say is that I'm showing up and my time's important, your time's important. So let's do this. Do you want to change or not? That's what you're coming to me for, right? Is to be different.
Yeah,
Whatever you're doing doesn't work right now. It hasn't worked. And we've all been there. But I want you to know that I'm very serious about that. And so I expect you to come to the table as serious as I am about it.
absolutely. Yeah. And how you're saying we cannot teach people to care. We cannot teach you to show up for yourself, but again, kind of that foundational aspect. I'll kind of share like the 4-step process I take my clients through when they come.
Yay.
Um, and this isn't necessarily how I deliver it to them, but this is how I think of it. So if
Uh-huh.
any out there listening, the first step when a client comes to me is going to be for me an assessment stage and for them a discovery stage. We're going to we're going to sit down and we are going to create a very foundational plan for you to see where you're already at. And so,
Mm-hmm.
because I do ask my clients to track their food for educational purposes, awareness purposes, the first few weeks with me, I would just want them to track what they're already eating.
Right.
I don't tell them what to change. I don't tell them what to do. I just say, no, we need to know what you've already been eating. Like pretend I'm never even going to look at it too, because I feel like people get like nervous and
Weird
embarrassed.
about it, yeah.
Like, so it's probably not 100% accurate, but it's as close as we can get. And then this discovery
Listen, we don't care what you're eating. We just want to know that you're eating. It doesn't matter what. Sorry.
in this phase, yes, I do care what my clients are eating, but in this phase, yeah, like I just want to know what it is you're eating because again, this comes back to where I want to see what you're lacking because I don't want this to become a restrictive situation. I want this to become a what more can I do for myself? And so during this discovery phase, a lot of people will learn a lot about themselves, like what is their biggest opportunity? They might have thought their biggest opportunity was XYZ, but then they figure out that it's actually, I don't know, like self,
Element of heat.
yeah, exactly. Um, and so in that discovery phase, that, like I said, that can take people months. Clients who come to me ready to go, it could take 3 weeks. It seriously
Right.
that quick. So then the next phase is building. So building trust in yourself, building consistency, building habits, um, building consistency, showing up to the gym for all your scheduled workouts, building trust in yourself that you actually can lift the weight, building trust in yourself by us working together on your form, building trust in yourself that you can put your phone down to get enough sleep, all of the things. So that can take forever. Like that, if you aren't going to show up and actually take this building phase seriously, that part could take forever. Because
Mhm.
until my clients can build trust in themselves and they can build consistency, we can't really do much more. Because
Right.
without that consistency, I can't see the pattern. I can't
Right.
see. And, the next step we would go through is at the evolving stage. So this is where we can actually take what we've learned in those first few stages and evolve it to work best for you where it's very enjoyable. It's a happy medium for like what I need from you and what you want in your workout routine. This could be, somebody saying they just love being on the stair stepper, so they really want to get on the stair stepper. And I'm like, cool, girl, go for it. I know I can trust you to eat enough food to expend those calories. I
Yep.
know I can trust you to hit your workout so that like I know I can trust you to hit your other workout. So yeah, sure, go ahead and do 15 minutes of stair stepper every week. Um, and then this is going to be followed by the adapt stage. And so I want all of my clients to at least go through two kinds of phases with me, whether that's going to be a fat loss phase and then a maintenance phase,
Ooh.
or a body recomp phase and then a building stage. I want at least the client to be with me long enough to understand, like we are saying, the same thing's not going to work forever.
Right.
Same thing's not going to work forever. You're going to have to adapt. And through all of this, something that I am like trying to get through people's head is this journey takes a lot of problem solving, okay? And
Yes.
I think that's why I'm a good coach and why fitness was fairly simple for me to pick up on is because I am very good at problem solving.
Yep.
What happens when you run out of chicken? Okay, what happens? What are you going to do with yourself? You have to problem solve and figure it out. Like, you can't just succumb and be the victim and be like, all right, I'm not hitting my protein goal today. You know what I mean? And so that adapt phase is like a huge piece to making this a lifestyle. And for me to feel comfortable, I mean, it's up to the client how long they want to work with me, but I really like my clients to make it through that stage for me to feel comfortable that when they leave me, they aren't just going to end up right back where they were because life's going to throw
Oh,
shit at you. Like you're going to lose somebody. You're going to go through a breakup. You're going to move. You're going to go on a month-long trip somewhere to do missionary work. I don't know, but you have to adapt and know that this is very important to you and figure out a way to make it work. So, those are the 4 steps that I take my clients through because again, it's not cookie cutter, but I feel like those are very important lessons to help somebody get through, to guide somebody through each of those steps. And it's all about them discovering themselves, like we've talked about.
well, it's also important too to point out that like everything you just said, it's scalable to the person and where they're at. This isn't a again, the one size fits all or whatever. It's let's 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 take a look at where you're currently at and go from there. But each part of how you do something with somebody is scalable. And I think that's like really important to let people know too. Like this doesn't ever have to be something rigid,
Yeah.
and it's quite honestly, it shouldn't be rigid. It should be something that you get excited to like switch up, or if you don't like something, awesome. You're listening to your body and what it's saying, and you're like, you know what? I love it when my clients are like, hey, can we try this instead? And depending on what it is we're doing, I'm like, bet. Because as a trainer, I'm focused on something totally different usually than what it is that you're looking at. But you know your body better than I do. And I will always err on the side of a suggestion from a client about what it is that they want to try because I'm encouraging that curiosity. I'm encouraging you to be curious about your own curiosity. And if the thing it is that you just got curious about is going to benefit the program that we're already in, okay, yeah, I'll rewrite it. I'll throw something in there, or I will pivot and switch gears and we'll say, in fact, I had this woman the other day. She's like 67 years old. She's so cute. But she was going to Orange Theory or something, and she just wanted to be put on. Okay, she wanted me to walk her through one machine for, I don't know, like 30 reps, because that's what Orange Theory was having her do. And then she wanted to move on to the next machine. And I'm like, my head's going to explode. But all right. So, anyways, I had to start with mobility one day. And Lindsay, I almost started crying. We get done doing just this mobility thing, where you like kneel down and you're up against the wall and you're opening up your torso and you're doing the thing, right? Well, she could barely get up and down like from her knees. And this woman, I'm helping her up. She's using my arm to get up. And she stops and she looks at me and she goes, forget the machines. She's like, this is what I need. I'm like,
Yeah,
yes.
that's awesome.
But I love that because if you can shift gears with them, they're going to be more inclined to wanting to try new stuff. And like for her to get into that and then me get excited about it with her, there was like dopamine release. There was this excitement of like, oh my God, it shouldn't be this hard for me to get up and down and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're right, it shouldn't. She's like, I need more of this. And so like just allowing yourself the space to kind of like, why am I uncomfortable? Maybe it shouldn't be this uncomfortable yet or whatever. A lot of that is 50-50. Like it's going to suck because your body's not used to doing it. Yes, that's one thing, but it's another thing to pivot and realize that what you're already doing isn't working and being open enough to take on what someone else is suggesting or whatever it is that we're saying like, hey, here's where we're at, here's where you're trying to go, and here's what needs to be done in the middle to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's any of my clients listening that told me that they didn't like to do lunges and I told them that you still have to do lunges, I'm sorry. But I stand by that.
They're absolutely
Hate
necessary.
lunges.
Nobody likes lunges.
Or
Or
you don't,
pull-ups.
yeah. I'm like, no, we're gonna keep doing them, okay? But I'll make them easier for you. We'll figure it out together.
Okay, I think we should go through like what we hate doing the most at the gym, just so everybody gets like a little taste of it to like end it at, and then I don't know, I'll send a video over. We'll post it later. Like, here's what
Hmm.
I hate doing. I've been trying to do more videos of not doing well, like
Yeah.
not executing perfectly because everybody has this. I am very good at what I do. I mean, like, whatever, but I have failed a lot of times to get to you seeing me do it well. So, like, top three things you hate doing. Like, when somebody throws it out there and you're like, God dang it, I don't want to do this today.
Oh my gosh. Anytime someone's like, you have to try Orange Theory, I'm petrified. I don't like that
Why?
because I either am doing high intensity cardio or lifting weight. And
Oh, you don't ever marry them?
I mean, no, because
Girl, when you come visit.
when I'm doing weightlifting, I'm lifting so heavy, like it is cardio, but it's not the same. It's not high intensity intervals. I don't like that. But I know there's a time and place, and I say that because um like for example, when I was in Cancun, I tried to put a little hit circuit together for myself on the beach. And I mean, I hadn't been eating my normal food. I had too much coffee that morning and I almost threw up. Like I was gonna do five sets and I only did three. So I did 20 jump squats, 20 push-ups, and 20 crunches. And I did it three times. I almost threw up. I was like, I was gonna make myself do it five, but it wasn't worth vomiting. Um, and I only hate it because I don't do it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yep.
So yeah, I like to lift heavy or I like to do like slow mobility or I like to run. I like them to be separate, compartmentalized.
Interesting.
Um, Other things I don't like. My least favorite muscle to train is biceps.
Really? Yes, that eye roll. Yes. Oh my God. I feel the same way about triceps and calves.
Wow. Wow.
I, like, for why do they even exist back there? And they make up like 75% of my arm. And I'm like,
I love the triceps, what makes my arm look like
you can't see nothing on me though, because of my tattoos. So it's like,
maybe if they were bigger.
you're
Um,
not wrong though.
I'm trying to think of anything else I don't like.
Yeah, we don't work out the same at all. Everything you do is like concentrated, and everything I do is all tied into itself. I can't. Like hypertrophic movements, no.
You hate, is that one of the things you would say you hate?
Oh my God.
Oh, it makes you feel
No, it doesn't.
so literally like pumping yourself full of like,
Whatever. I got the
oh
same
no,
thing.
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm trying to
No,
say
no, I know. Yeah.
when I'm doing like the hypertrophy movement, it's literally like injecting myself with
Uh,
like, yeah, you know what I mean?
I do. I just inject it in a different way.
I know. Okay, so you hate hypertrophy training. You hate training triceps and calves. What else? Because I need time to think. It's really hard for me. I like a lot of stuff.
Oh yeah, I'll give a running list. All right. So triceps, I hate it because they're all. I just had to start working on them because of handstand stuff, and I can't do a muscle up yet. That I know you're working on those too, and I feel like that has a lot to do with like the turnover of the upper. I don't know. I just haven't gotten it yet. I don't know what it
To
is.
be the whole up.
That. Yep. And you need triceps to do that.
Yeah.
Um, any kind of like concentrated core. So I'm talking like you
Ooh.
grab a mat and you like lay down and you do the thing. I can't stand it. I
That my
cannot.
third. Make that my third. I hate that. I don't do core anymore. Like I just don't. I do toe to bar because
Yep.
that's like something that's working a lot of other stuff.
Hanging knee raises,
Love that.
American kettlebell swings where I'll stop it up top and use my core to cleans.
Hmm.
I do cleans and to,
Oh, it's deadlifts, bench press, all working your core, just so everyone knows.
yeah, you don't really have to work core if you don't want to, if you're engaging it in within the workout. Um, Obviously, Bulgarian split squats are the fucking worst.
I love them.
The other day when I sent you that video of like my foot on the pad and then like the kettlebell. No, I had to like mentally prepare for that.
Yeah.
I want to do the movements I'm good at. Uh, are you anterior or no? Posterior delts were kind of annoying at first till they started to develop, and now I'm like, okay, I need to like get my face pulls in and have my posture be all good. Inner thigh sucks.
Mm,
Not my favorite. And I definitely don't deadlift enough. I
mm.
do it when I remember that I'm forgetting to do it. But I
Uh,
do a lot of other like posterior chain stuff, which I feel like I don't know. Again, I listen to my body, so I don't even, unless I'm doing something really on purpose, I don't really walk into the gym with a plan. I just listen to my body and what it is I need to do.
yes, that's
The plans I have are for my clients, and usually, I have to have a plan for them because it's so specific to them that it, you know, so I don't know why I don't more. Maybe I should track it for like a month or so and see just how it goes, just to see how it goes.
yeah, I think tracking and like having a plan is a good way to make sure you're like you've mentioned, like you realized you weren't training your back enough or like you realized you weren't training this enough. And so that's that's one like benefit of like a structured plan is like making sure you're getting a well-rounded routine. And that I realized I started getting this like nagging because I didn't want to train back anymore because my back is absolutely jacked and I'm like doesn't need
Same.
to
Yeah.
be anymore. Like I'm like chill, chill. So I just completely removed it. And then I started feeling pains in my back because the muscles, everything, your body's going to compensate for what it's.
Yep.
And so it's really important, even if I'm not pushing myself till failure while training back, I still need to be doing some pull-ups. I need to be doing lat pull downs. I need to keep up with the muscle that's back there.
Which is also why I love talking about what we don't like doing because everything I just named is probably what I train the least.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the Spartan race that I ran, I'm like 3/4 of the way done with the race and my calves are seizing up because I didn't condition them. I mean, that was mostly because of like electrolytes and being depleted, but had I conditioned myself to maybe have my calves take on a little more stress,
Yeah.
a lot of times when your tricep is underdeveloped, other things in your shoulders get messed up. And that's why I injured myself doing handstand stuff. So it's just like being aware. But also, I think too, that's a testament for how far along you are in your fitness too, and what you're doing with your fitness, because I would never have known that I had underdeveloped triceps had I not started trying to do handstands. Had I not introduced a new movement that my body, excuse me, was unfamiliar with, that other parts of my body were compensating for because I wasn't strong enough in the area that needed to be strong to prevent the injury to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's also really fun just to hear successful people talk about what they don't like doing. And I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one.
Yep. Don't ask me to go to Orange Theory because I won't. So.
No, me either. I might go to a Pilates though. I've never been to a Pilates class.
Yes, I want to try that so bad. No, do I think everyone should do Pilates to get that Pilates bod? No. But do I think Pilates is a really, really awesome way to work out? Yes.
Like
I think
once or twice a month. Yeah, do it.
and I mean, the people who even if Pilates is your main form of exercise and that's what keeps you consistent, the Pilates with the reformer, though, because I believe you have to have some resistance training, okay? You have to have
Absolutely.
some type of resistance training, whether it's weights or a reformer or doing body weight exercises with a different leverage point, whatever.
Resistance bands.
Yeah, resistance bands or, whatever, working out under water in a pool or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But there's all sorts of things that you can add to make sure you're adding a little something more after some time. But yeah, yeah, yeah. I would love to try Pilates.
Cool.
Feel like we're ready to wrap it up?
I think I think we are. I think we are.
Okay, cool. We need to record a really good outro that we can copy paste. So try not to make it specific to this episode, like just a general.
Cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cool, 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 cool. I think that about wraps it up for us. So I'll just remind everybody to speak with courage. Nope, I messed it up already.
Find us. First, find us.
Yeah, here, let me write it down really quick. So I'm actually finding that I love following something that I can just have my eyes on.
Good. Yeah,
Find
I like my
us.
little notes on the side. And then I just crossed off this. I was like, I know I want to hit these points. So when I hit them, no matter when I hit them, I'm going to cross them off so I don't worry about them anymore. And then, yeah, I wanted to sniff so bad that whole time.
I'm freezing because the sun went away, and I'm like, it's okay. You're gonna be okay. Okay, alrighty, and we speak with courage, right? Yeah. No, purpose. What is
Speak,
it?
speak with purpose. No, lead with courage. So it's lead with courage, speak with purpose, and stay curious. Good thing nobody knows we don't know our own tagline.
Honestly, though, it's embarrassing every week.
It's okay. We're just human.
Alrighty, okay, okay, okay. So I think that wraps it up for us. I just want to remind everybody where to find us. We are going to be on Instagram, the Leon Tisa effect. Leon Tisa underscore effect. And then we are also on YouTube. And then also as a reminder to lead with courage, speak with purpose, and stay curious. One last reminder that we're also open to you guys suggesting things you want to hear us talk about because we also like being involved with you guys and the polls that we've been doing, which has been really fun collecting information before we get ready to record our episodes. So
And we'll
stay
see
tuned.
and we'll see you next Wednesday.
Yay.